So what we've seen in the last 72 hours is a surprise attack against the Iranian leadership. And you saw that the supreme leader was in a morning meeting together with his defense minister, the chief of the armed forces, the head of the IRGC, who were all killed in that strike. Subsequently, you saw the U.S. Israeli strikes hitting especially air defenses. And then the Navy, so the IRGC Navy in the ports of Bandar Abbas and Chabahar. And then more and more strikes against missile infrastructure. So that's command and control centers. But then it's also what the Iranians call the missile cities. Like these are underground missile bases where they store, partially produce, and prepare the weapons. So, and I think gradually we'll see, I think the Israelis have already started last night. We'll see a shift gradually, and with the other things in parallel happening, but like the proportionment of forces assigned towards degrading the Iranian law enforcement, the Basij, and the IRGC, so the suppression apparatus of the regime. But they're also trying to figure out where's the critical infrastructure, the oil and gas infrastructure, and where is it vulnerable? Like which vectors, which angles, how low can the drones fly without being detected by radar? Where can we slip through the defenses? And overall, we're seeing over 90% success rates for interceptions. But you know, it's hard not to focus on a drone that slips through and targets an Aramco oil facility, especially if it's one that produces 500,000 barrels of oil per day. So I think that's the game that's currently being played. The Iranians are trying to figure out how to punish President Trump and imposing costs through the global economy, through oil prices and inflation that reflect inside the US, because they couldn't quite figure out how to crack the US bases and how to, you know, bring dead soldiers home. So they're trying it in a different way. To the idea that I think the Iranians have this idea by punishing the GCC countries, they can actually break them out of the coalition. Now, I think it has the opposite effect of them closing ranks and getting closer to the United States. But nonetheless, I like the original design, I think, of the Iranian strikes was to impose costs to and with the UAE, you look at this, what is it trying to do? In Dubai, it's trying a diversified economy, going away from oil and gas. That's the airport, that is the hotels. In Bahrain too, Bahrain is a hub regionally with hotels and real estate being part of the economy. And that's what's being struck. So for the Americans, it's a bit of, how do we get a global distribution of power that favors us? How do we disentangle ourselves? Because the question with each and every of these conflicts has been, how many munitions do you need from Patriot interceptors, THAAD interceptors, cruise missiles? There's a need for those with Admiral Paparo in Indo-PACOM, where CENTCOM and Indo-PACOM are a bit in competition. If Iran at some point were no longer to be a threat to the region or threat to the United States, they could focus more on that. For Israel, I think it's more, I mean, and we've heard this directly a few times. They remember fondly the time before 1979 when Iran was an ally of Israel, right? So the war aims differ slightly in that I think Israel is more into it to actually change the regime. The Americans could live with a weakened Iran that is not an enemy. Yes, so there will have to be a ground element, and I could see that there are various options how this could play out. There are ethnic insurgencies in the periphery of Iran. Iran is half Persian by population, by demographics. There are various ethnic minorities, Azeris, Kurds, the Baloch, the Kurdish and the Baluchi insurgencies are actually active even before and even without the January repercussions. So this war will probably play out over another couple of days, if not weeks. This is not over. This is not over this week, and it'll have offensive as well as defensive aspects that we need to take care of. Defensive, as in Iran still has missiles and UAVs and capabilities to hit the Gulf, but also the global economy. The Americans are betting on their capacity to destroy the Iranian offensive capabilities before they can enact. And ultimately, it'll be that balance between how much do the Iranians still have to hurt others and how much can the Americans forestall that will decide more or less the outcome of this war.